Redditors who were pronounced dead and resuscitated. What did you go through mentally while being pronounced dead?
Yay, they told me I was dead for 3 minutes. I remember those clips of people saying they experienced some kind of near afterlife. But for me it was like sleeping. I woke up, they told me how I almost died. I said oh yeah. They explained a bunch of stuff and then offered me a grilled cheese. I had Doritos too. 10 out of 10 would die again. It's just nothingness, not scary at all. Edit guys, please, I don't need rewards, save your money. There's a lot of comments here, and people seem to have fear of being nothing. And that's okay, I would have too, but it's not really like that. You don't have to do anything. It's just an absence of all things, no thoughts, no fears, just absolute zero. Much deeper than a dreamless sleep, more like anesthesia. You're around and doing things, and then you wake up, somewhere else, confused as all, like no time at all has passed, kind of like that long stretch of time before you were born. Remember that? Yeah, neither do I. You had nothing to fear then, did you? It will be okay. Just enjoy your time while you're here and give people you love big hugs, even if your dad doesn't want one and is pretending to be a tough guy with no emotion. Give him an even bigger hug.
I was in a motorbike accident in 2013. It eventually resulted in internal bleeding from damage to my spleen and liver, plus more. I was pretty messed up. Just the spleen was really bleeding though. I ended up with 13 units added to me over multiple transfusions. I had a few small incision surgeries to try to stop the bleeding before they really opened me up. The morning I was supposed to have a big surgery, I was waiting in the ICU. I am told that I coded one morning. Effectively, I was on the edge of death and my heart stopped. It was definitely not so far as to be pronounced dead, but I guess it was closer than most people prefer. Between physical trauma, massive blood loss, and massive painkillers, my memory of the time in the ICU is spotty at best. I have absolutely no memory of coding. It isn't very exciting from my perspective, but my brother says it was pretty intense for everyone else in the room. Luckily, I have a totally normal life now. If I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt, all my scars are hidden and no one knows any different. In the pool, there are a lot of scars to see. Kids stare. It doesn't bother me, thanks to all the medical staff out there that do so much to keep people like me alive.
I was pronounced dead but never resuscitated. I think it might be why my family freaks out whenever I move something in the house.
One of my best friends almost died giving birth to her daughter. She was bleeding out and the doctor and nurse had summoned the priest to perform last rites. She basically made a plea to God that if he let her live, she would make her life's mission to save other people on the way to emergency surgery. Says she blacked out and thought she was dead. She woke up with her mom and doctor standing by her bed, surprised she had survived. She felt she had been given a mission and went back to school to be a nurse. She eventually got a job as an ICU nurse on the code team. In short, when people are dying, it's her job to save them, which she's done for more than 20+ years now.
I don't remember anything from the whole day. It happened one afternoon. Only thing I remember is waking in the hospital 2 days later to a surprised nurse. Turns out they thought I was going to be in a coma.
I got hit by a car. I could still see with my eye that didn't have blood in it. I could hear all the commotion. I felt getting forced into my back, and then CPR. I felt my first heartbeat and then blood flowing through my body, and at that point I felt all the pain, took a deep breath, and then everything went black.
I wasn't pronounced dead, but from what I was told I wasn't far. I experienced nothingness, like when you black out from drinking. Or when you get home from a super long day to fall on the couch and just fall asleep. It was like absolute restfulness and peace, but in absolute darkness. It's not scary at all, and it's really eliminated my fear of dying. The only thing I worry about are those that love me after I pass, otherwise I could really go at any point and I wouldn't mind. It made me stop thinking about good and evil and made me think more that people are just human. And #X200B, edit, I just remembered how beep awful the headache I had was when all the blood was rushing back to my brain. Super weird and uncomfortable, that part was dumb. And #X200B, edit2, please stop upvoting at 666 because that's funny to me.
My buddy had heart surgery last year that got complicated, to the point where it took about triple the time it was supposed to. He has spoken at length with me about the experience because it was so traumatic. He did require resuscitation from a full arrest mid-surgery, which sadly, fortunately, he does not remember. What he does slightly remember, is the 3 days of post-surgical psychosis as the specific cocktail of sedation played poorly with his personal brain chemistry. For him it was a relentless stream of horrible hallucinations, demons, fighting monsters, quicksand, carnivorous hospital beds, being swallowed by the orderlies who morphed into tentacle monsters, pulling out his own Foley catheter while it was still inflated, all sorts of terrible, horrible memories he wished he could erase. So if he even remembered specifically the being dead portion of the program, it is unlikely that would even compare to the subsequent 3 days of his life.
Died from an overdose for a few minutes. There really wasn't anything. Just blackness and a vague lapse of time. It was almost like waking up from a deep night's rest and feeling like a horse had kicked me in the chest.
I don't remember any of them. Been declared dead 3 times and not once did I remember anything during death.
Felt like third-person security camera footage of my body, then slowly zooming out and rising up, felt really cold, and then I started hearing really loud clanging sounds and woke up in the ambulance to the sound of the gurney bouncing on a rough road. It was surreal, haven't feared death since then tbh. It was almost 6 years ago and I still think about it a few times a month.
A frat brother was clinically dead 45 seconds. Overdosed on Xanax. The experience changed his life. He never used drugs again. He said he saw himself over the hospital bed and the nurses working. He said as he slowly floated through the roof a peaceful feeling better than any drug took over. He said you feel free of all worry and regret. He saw the white light allegedly and a few family members before they said it wasn't his time. He floated back to his body. He was never the same again and used to be atheist. Edit, I can't tell y'all what I believe for sure or if he really experienced it. The raw emotion and the hospital records confirmed to me he experienced something or that he was at least dead. He has never lied to me and the effect on him was palpable. Both of us had our own issues at FSU. I also went overboard so now I don't enjoy lots of drugs. Used to be top party school in the nation so it was hard to focus on what's important.
As my family was saying goodbye to me I remember seeing 3 shadow people at the foot of the hospital bed, me thinking it was family. I asked, who are they? My mother then proceeds to tell me they were angels but I perceived them as my dead relatives there to bring me to the other side. The nurses then proceeded to put me under anesthesia so the doctors could hopefully get my brain to stop bleeding. They were successful and I'm still here. I was told later on that they lost me during the surgery but I would have never known that on my own. I went under then woke up, that's all I knew.
Not me but my husband. This happened just a few weeks ago on December 6th. We were in our room chilling and talking about going to lunch and doing some Christmas shopping. As I got up to get dressed he started breathing funny. I look over and his arms are seized up and eyes wide. He's not responding to me at all. As I'm on the phone with 911 he stopped breathing. I performed CPR with the helpful instructions from the dispatcher for 7 minutes until the paramedics arrived. Once they got here they continued CPR and had to defib him twice. When they finally got him in the ambulance they had him intubated and a pulse going again. He was in the cardiac ICU for 5 days. Only intubated for about 24 hours before they woke him up from heavy sedation. They did loads of tests. Nothing wrong with his heart but it was ruled a sudden cardiac arrest. On that 5th day he went in for surgery to have an ICD put in and was transferred out of ICU. He was released on the 6th day. He remembers very little of the whole ordeal. Doesn't remember it happening or how long he was there. His memory of being in the hospital is hazy. But he's doing great. Tired and healing but alive, and I had him home for Christmas. He may not remember but I always will. Scariest 6 days of my life. Having my healthy 31-year-old husband, the love of my life, almost die in front of me is something I'll never forget.
I had an employee of mine get very sick over a period of time. I won't go into the details of his illness. He had been in the hospital for a week before I was allowed to see him. I was visiting him in his hospital room and his wife was also in the room. He kinda blanked out and then the equipment hooked up to him started beeping, alarms were going off. He flatlined. Many doctors and nurses rushed into the room and they tried to resuscitate him. We were eventually ordered out of the room. They came out about a half hour later and told us that they were successful in resuscitation. I wasn't allowed to see him again until several days later. At that time he told me what he observed during the ordeal. He said that he observed the entire episode from a third-person point of view. He saw the whole thing, including me and his wife in the room. He no longer works for me, but we still stay in touch.
Almost nobody is pronounced dead and resuscitated. They pronounce you when they stop working on you. What seems to be referred here as being pulseless or asystole. I've worked around death for the last several years as a chaplain. Only seen what you refer to once. Death was expected. Person stopped breathing. No pulse was found. Person was declared, time noted. 7 minutes later they started breathing. They died for real 10 to 20 minutes later.
I was around 5 years old when I almost internally bled to death from a bad virus. I experienced what I could only describe as maybe some weird limbo in between heaven. It's weird because I don't think I even had a concept of heaven at that point unless it's something I saw in a cartoon. I was transported to my grandparents' house except there was no walls. Everything was hanging on the walls like normal, but it was floating in midair. No one was home, but I remember just wandering around the house looking at everything floating. Then it switched to me at my elementary school. Again, there was no one around. Almost abandoned. Except I saw another girl around my same age. My memory is a bit foggy of what she told me, but I know she had passed away and I think she was trying to get to heaven. We ended up being in some beautiful area, gorgeous hills with green grass and beautiful trees everywhere with blue skies. I was standing next to a tree and kept rubbing the leaves. As long as I kept rubbing the leaves I wouldn't pass away completely. I remember then being almost literally in the sky. There was a huge giant tree log that I wasn't allowed to pass unless I was ready to leave Earth. If I decided to go over it, I would basically be with God, although I don't remember thinking that word as a kid. It was just like you would be with some loving energy. I remember not wanting to cross because I didn't want to leave my parents yet. And that was it. I woke back up from falling unconscious suddenly as I was hemorrhaging.
I wasn't actually pronounced dead. I was in a coma on life support. I was drugged at a bar and overdosed on the drug. I don't really remember much, but I know I walked home from the HAR and my sister said when I got there I immediately fell down and wasn't waking up. She rushed me to the hospital and said I wasn't breathing and my lips were blue when I got there. I was immediately put on machines and miraculously woke up about 24 hours later. The thing is, I have zero memory and it didn't feel like that long. It was like waking up from a nap when I did wake up, and I didn't understand what the deal was when my friend ran out of the room like, "She's awake. Get in here." To this day, my near-death is a huge disappointment. I didn't have any dreams, I didn't get to see any dead relatives, I didn't meet God or any angels, nor my spirit guide. It was just a $12,000 nap.
I've died once. I don't remember much about it except there was a nice, dark nothingness which I guess felt kind of cozy, but I also knew it was the end, so I'd better not. I don't know, I knew I wasn't supposed to go into the dark. Like I was in the dark, but I wasn't supposed to be enjoying it, because if I embraced it too much I would die. I'm generally not that scared of death these days. It was kind of like falling asleep and kind of vaguely remembering a dream when you wake up. All I really have are feelings, not a solid picture or an image or anything like that.
Not my experience, a friend's. My friend was pronounced dead about 6 times I believe, but only told me 2 of the experiences. 1, just pure blackness in an empty space. 2, their grandfather told them to go back.
I have been dead and resuscitated twice. The first time was after drowning. I remember a feeling of great peace, some flashbacks to my life, but mostly just a remarkable feeling of connectedness. It's a feeling that changed the course of my whole life. The second time was from anaphylactic shock from contrast solution. Again I remember feeling of incredible warmth and connectedness. Total peace. The second time, however, when I woke I remember feeling a deep sense of compassion to all the people around me, which has stuck with me. These experiences have led me to a 20-year Buddhist practice, working in organizational psychology, and a life dedicated to trying to help others and myself be the best, most peaceful, most compassionate, loving people we can be. I have no fear of death.
Check out our NDE to hear people who have died and come back talk about their experiences.
In order to not bias the answers, please comment also if you experienced nothing or were simply unconscious.
Anaphylactic reaction to an already deadly Urukanji jellyfish sting. I coded. Saw this white light and could see myself floating upwards, saw my family and the DRS and nurses who were working on me. Came back and was in intense pain.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.